We're going to head right to a live event out of Georgia where Democratic lawmakers are talking about last week's FBI raid at a Fulton County election hub.
We don't have any ability to hold accountable. So I think that is the biggest concern. I think that the county should, with the quickness, try to get those ballots back, have a judge review this search warrant, and make this information public. I think the public has a right to know what facts the government relied on to get this search warrant in the first place.
Fulton County Commissioner Marvin Arrington actually told us he filed a lawsuit to try and get the ballots back into the hands of the county. What are your concerns about the federal government having those ballots and the information that's on?
Well, I will say that the Department of Justice, I am a former Department of Justice lawyer, has enjoyed an immense amount over generations of trust from the public. They have been and are trained to be above reproach when it comes to what they represent to the court and what they represent to citizens when they are acting in their official capacity. And as I've stated, the problem with what is happening right now is that we have a Department of Justice who does not seem to be abiding by, in numerous respects, the same level of candor, of respect for due process, of respect for the separation of powers, of respect for judicial oversight of what they do. So if I haven't seen a lawsuit filed by anybody yet, I certainly would like to see that. But what we know right now is that if our democracy is going to continue to stand, we have a separation of powers for a reason. We have checks and balances for a reason. And the government has got to be checked by someone. No one with power in this country is allowed to act in an absolute way. And that includes the executive branch, and that includes the Department of Justice. So if there has been a lawsuit filed, great. I look forward to seeing it.
Representative, do you think that this raid changes the nature of election-related legislation, like the no-bill session, that will be used by Republicans to try to seek more changes to the ballot?
Well, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if there were folks who sought to try to obtain some political advantage based on this. We know that my Republican colleagues, my colleagues on the opposite side of the aisle, have been tinkering with our election laws ever since they started losing. So we have had audit after audit done in Fulton County. We have had Republican elected officials certify that these elections were free and fair and that Joe Biden won in 2020. That has not stopped Republicans in the House from constantly bringing about bills that many have argued are efforts to suppress the vote or make it harder for people to vote. So if history is any indication, I would say it's quite possible, although I would hope that every person, no matter what your party is, would understand that this is a gross executive overreach that is not based on facts. And if the Republicans decide to bring some legislation about our elections, it doggone better be based in fact. I mean, the time has passed for insinuating to the public that our elections don't work, that Fulton County can't run an election. Fulton County can absolutely run an election. It has been established over and over and over and over and over again. It's one thing to use rhetoric. It's another thing to deal with facts, and I would challenge my colleagues in the fourth branch to continue to ask these tough questions, and I would challenge citizens, because at the end of the day, look, you know, elections are contests, and just because your side loses doesn't mean the other side gets to run roughshod over you. Everybody is entitled to operate under rules that work, under rules that are fair, and we should not, none of us, not one of us, sit around and watch as Republicans seek to throw November elections into chaos by tinkering with our election laws when there's no basis in fact for doing so.
Do you think this is less about 2020, more about 26 and 28?
Listen, I have a healthy sense of skepticism. You know, when I was a prosecutor, we would say that's not a coincidence, that's evidence. I don't think it's a coincidence that the president has for a very long time been operating under the belief, I won't even say the belief, but has been asserting that he was the winner of the 2020 election, despite evidence to the contrary, despite multiple investigations, multiple recounts, multiple lawsuits. This has been reviewed and decided. So what I would tell you is no, I don't think this is about the 2020 election. That horse has been beat to death. And what I would say is really interesting about this is that there's no question about the 2024 election. So the same county that ran the 2024 election also ran the 2020 election, more or less operating under the same rules, the same supervision, and the same guidance. So it's absolutely about the future of our elections here. There have been folks who have been wanting to take over, have a state takeover of Fulton County's elections board and the running of our elections. And it is always partisan, and it is never based on fact. And the reason why they want to do that is because Fulton County is one of the bluest counties in this state, one of the most populous counties in this state, and Republicans can't win Fulton County based on ideas or candidates. And so instead of running based on ideas and candidates and policies, they would much rather take over our elections and sow doubt on the electoral will of the people in this county. So I think it is unfortunate, and I ultimately think that as this makes its way through the courts, the people will be vindicated in the end, and I just believe that because I believe in the rule of law.
Do you have any concerns that this is an effort to intimidate voters heading into 2026?
I mean, I think that's obvious. I mean, it's obvious that when you bring armored trucks and FBI agents and search warrants to a location where, where we administer such an important function of our democracy, it is designed to, one, sow doubt in our elections, but two, make citizens feel unsafe in the exercise of their votes. So I think that is something we have to guard against. I think every citizen must, despite what they see happening here, be ever vigilant in going to the polls and making sure that their vote counts. They would not be doing this if they weren't absolutely afraid that if we have free and fair elections, they'd lose. They are afraid that if our elections are free and fair, and that if working people and people in this county and across this state go to the polls, they're going to lose. If they weren't afraid of that, why would they be taking these actions? Your vote is your voice. And I want every citizen, no matter what their party is, to hold fast to that. It is as fundamental as anything to our rights as citizens in this country. Thank you, guys. Thank you. You want to say something?
Yeah.
Right?
Want to hear something else about SB 214? Maybe you don't. Oh, putting up.
Yeah, you got raisins.
All right.
She's only a little bit taller. I'll stand by you.
I also want to say that we are fighting for democracy on multiple fronts. This front is coming from certainly what happened in Fulton County and the raid on the elections office there is from a federal front, but we are also fighting right here in this building. Today in Government Affairs, House Government Affairs, a new bill will be unveiled. It is an election overhaul bill that will absolutely change the way that we run elections here in Georgia. The polls say what the polls say. The majority of Georgians have had success with the current system. They have faith in our elections and in how we vote. So why are we completely changing the mechanism in which we vote? Why are we doing that in a major election year? There are ways to roll out new systems that are responsible, but what the Georgia General Assembly is doing, should they choose to move forward with this bill, is epically irresponsible. What this new bill proposes is a hybrid election system. So not only would we continue to use the ballot marking devices, the touch screens that we currently use, but instead of scanning those ballots, we would go to a hand count of those ballots. There is no jurisdiction in the country that does the hand count of millions of ballots. Why? Because hand counting ballots is rife with error. It is like watching paint dry, right? You have people counting not only all the ballots, but all the races on the ballots. We are talking about 20 to 30 races on millions of ballots, each of which need to be counted by many humans. And then if the results aren't consistent, there is then doubt in the election. That process of hand counting millions and millions of ballots, we don't know exactly how long it's going to take because it has never been tried. But it is going to push the results of our elections by weeks, if not months, during which time there can be all kinds of certainty. Bad actors can stir doubt in the results of the elections. So this is a epically irresponsible bill, and if it is pushed out in this year, it is another way in which we are trying to undermine faith in Georgia's elections, and it's another way in which we are sowing chaos because, again, the system that we have is very, very good. It has been working for Georgians. They would not want to cause chaos in the elections if they weren't afraid of losing. That is the bottom line. There are calls from D.C. to change our system because we know what D.C. wants. But what I want to know is that we have the integrity and the backbone in this building among our members to stand up against that, because the losers in this case are going to be the voters of Georgia if this thing goes through.
Representative, I'll ask you the same question that I asked Representative Miller. Do you think the raid will be used as a pretext not just for this legislation, but other election-related legislation right by the session?
Yes, I absolutely do. I mean, the results of the 2020 election have been verified time and time again. It is the most scrutinized election in history, and Fulton County is the most scrutinized county with respect to the 2020 election that exists. There is no reason to do this unless you are trying to bring up additional questions, sow additional doubts. But again, it's all pretext for doing the other things that they want to do. Obviously, everybody here is very familiar with the takeover provision. If the state is permitted to overtake Fulton County elections, that is the difference between a win and a loss in Georgia for Democrats and Republicans. I mean, it is no surprise that Fulton County is being targeted. Fulton County is the largest county. It has many, many blue votes. I've said this before, but if the administration actually had a genuine interest in ferreting out voter fraud, they would have an investigation of Coffee County, Georgia, where we have actual evidence of the biggest election breach, I think, certainly in recent history. But there's no appetite to investigate Coffee County because there's no real appetite to investigate election fraud. This is all pretextual when it pertains to Fulton County. Thank you so much.
So we were just listening to Georgia Democratic lawmakers as they were discussing last Wednesday's FBI raid at the Fulton County Election Hub and Operations Center. And this is a raid that has really lawmakers split down party lines. Republicans are insisting that there are lingering concerns about election security and fairness surrounding Georgia's 2020 election. We were hearing a little bit earlier from some of those lawmakers after that raid, including Senator Blake Tillery saying, quote, "I think all of us are looking forward to seeing what the FBI raid shows. Georgia's been waiting for a long time to answer questions about election security and fairness, and the only way to get those answers is still a transparent process." Meanwhile, we just heard live from Democratic lawmakers in Georgia as they continue to condemn the raid, calling it unnecessary and politically charged.